spend our life searching for the sense of belonging. Some people die before they fulfill their desires. Such a waste of existence. Waste of existence. We spend our life searching for the sense of belonging. Some people die before they fulfill their desires. Such a waste of existence. Waste of existence.
The sun is shining and the anxious earth is rising. Anxious earth is rising. I'm so happy.
We spend our life searching for the sense of belonging. Some people die before they fulfill their desires. Such a waste of existence.
Hey, welcome to the stream. And we got video too. Look at that. Amazing. Let me see if I got audio here. Is this mic on? Let's see if this mic is on and if I'm in sync. Kinda. It's kind of in sync, close enough, I guess. Yeah, I'm back to using the old speaker again. I bought this $4. Oh yeah, by the way, this is the Double Tribble stream on Twitch. This is a live stream, in case you're watching us on a VOD somewhere. My name is Ron. I live in rural New Hampshire, surrounded by forests and wild animals, and I stream mostly about science and technology. Which is what I'm going to do today. But I also stream about other stuff, civics. I do IRL sometimes, a lot of different things. And I talk about my headset, my headphones. I I bought these headphones at a yard sale for $4, and they were great. They worked great. And then they on the connector end of it, it messed up after I used it for a little bit. And I said, okay, I'll solder it together. And I tried to solder it back on there, and it's got these type of wires that are difficult to solder. Let's just put it that way, without going into detail. And so I added it. I found this. What the hell was that? I added these an extra wire on here, right? So I've got the wire going to my headphones, and I spliced it together with this to extend it a little bit. See, it's extended. But it was very difficult to wire the solder those wires together, and apparently I didn't do it good enough because I pulled on this. I accidentally get stuck behind my rocking chair here, and I pulled on it and broke it. So I gotta fix my headphones again. So I'm back to using the old speaker, which is what I started with when I first started streaming. You know, I gotta monitor my stream, right? I got to monitor the audio, make sure it's working and all that. So that's what I'm using for now. But today we're going to talk about technology. That's what we're going to talk about. And I picked this subject just today. I was this morning or this afternoon. Yeah, I was trying to research something, and ended up using an AI to do that, to research it. And in the process of researching it, I made a discovery about AI that I didn't know about. So I wanted to share that with you. And as you can see in the title of my stream, it's about censorship by AI. Amazing. I've been running into censorship generally with AIs, not with AIs, but just generally with any company that with $1 billion or more footprint. I've been running into censorship, so that kind of sucks. I mean, I run into this, throughout my life just because of who I am, neuro-D and all that. So that's nothing new to me, but this is kind of a new twist on it, which it doesn't have anything to do with my neuro-D. It's censorship about certain subjects and things like that. So what I like to do is to talk about that, and I'll actually show the conversation that I had. I actually had it with two AIs. I had one with first with an AI that I commonly use. It's called pi.ai, like pi, like circles, pi, that kind of thing. Pi AI. And that's where they're at, actually, is that the URL is pi.ai. And it's a kind of a conversational AI by this company called Inflection AI. And they've kind of tuned this AI to be, emotional or to try to be a little bit more friendly and human, interactive, and all that kind of stuff, right? So, and it does that, and it does it very well, and it's it's just cool to work with that AI, to see that technology. But one of the issues, or a couple of the issues with it, with a lot of AIs, is trying to figure out where they're getting information from. You ask them a question, they give you an answer, and you say, okay, what's your source on that? And they go, just kind of like people, right? So in that sense, it's very human-like. You ask, how do you know? What's your source on that information? How do you know that? And it's just, I don't know. I just heard it somewhere, So it's very much like that. Oh, you can see my little fan, my air filter, my solar powered air filter. I'm streaming during the day. I started the stream at about a little after 3:30, and it's kind of it's just getting cloudy now. It was going full strength here most of the afternoon, but now it's kind of turning slowly. And I was adjusting it today, and it attacked me. Look at that. I was messing with it, and it actually drew blood. So I've got a safety issue with my design. I was going to put a plate over it. I thought the fan was not capable of doing any harm. I thought it was pretty simple. But when the sun was really full strength, it was really spinning really fast, and it got me. Okay, so back to AI here. So I did a little conversation with this AI, and I thought I would play it back. And then after I did that conversation, I followed up with an AI with Bing, Microsoft's AI, and kind of asked it the same type of conversations, and tried to see where it was coming from. And basically what I discovered is that the AIs are not trained on all the data on the internet or all the data that there is. That's the impression that they try to give you. They say, oh, we've run out of data, right? We've given it everything there is, and we don't have enough data now. But that's not true. They're not giving it all the data. They're censoring a whole bunch of stuff, apparently. So you ask it questions about certain things, it won't tell you about those things because it doesn't know about it. It's been censored. The actual data that they're putting into the AI has been censored by the developers. And I'll get into that here in a little bit and show you what I'm talking about. So let me bring up this conversation that I had with this thing. Okay, let's see if I can find that here. Videos. All right. Okay.
I can write stories, brainstorm.
Okay. So, all right. The way this thing works. Let me bring it up here if I can get it onto my. I found it. Found the video. Now let me bring it up on the stream here. Okay, there we go. All right, we'll bring that on. And that's it. Okay, so now, so you see that? You see this is the, so I'm at Pi AI, and first thing it does, it asks you a few preliminary stuff, and then it, once you get going with it, you tell it, you give it a name. I give it a fake name each time. And it asks you what sound it should make. And all right, so let me play this and see if I'm getting audio with my speaker to my head here.
I can write stories.
Okay, I think I've got audio here. All right, so let's
Brainstorm ideas or explore today's news. And I can sound like this if you choose. Nice choice. Now you can hear me. What should we talk about first, Rudy?
Okay, so
Okay, Rudy. What did you want to talk about? Ask me for advice, for answers, or let's talk about whatever's on your mind.
Okay, so that's how it begins. And it's very, very conversational, trying to be human-like, emotional, all that, right? So I asked, what's new? And, one of the cool things about AI now is that the courts have ruled so far, anyway, that stuff generated by AI is not copyrighted. So that's kind of cool because that means I can use it on my stream. So that's kind of nice. So let me, I'll go ahead and play this, and then I'll kind of interject if I need to as we go along.
New things are happening every day. Here are a few recent headlines. The Clark County School District in Las Vegas has welcomed a new group of 150 Filipino teachers to address critical needs in special education, elementary education, math, and science. Las Vegas has agreed to give land to a new art museum championed by casino magnate Elaine Wynn in partnership with the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. Sabra Smith, Newby, and Steve Ford have been appointed as new deputy city managers for the city of Las Vegas. Are there any particular areas of news you're interested in?
Okay, so I asked it what was new, and it just gave me just really bland, just completely, uncut stuff that is just, it's local spot, local news, kind of human interest. I mean, no controversy, nothing that would offend any advertisers, nothing that would offend anybody who is wealthy. Just blah. It just gave me the, stuff that you get on your local TV news, right? Newscast, right? Local news. And so I came back and I asked it, okay, what about international stuff? So here I asked it,
here's a quick roundup of some recent international relations news.
Okay,
U.S. and China are working to avoid conflict at talks in Beijing. A top White House official has arrived in China for talks on the strained relationship between the two countries. Mexico has put relations with the U.S. and Canadian embassies on pause after they criticized Mexico's proposed judicial reforms. The EU is being urged to rethink its ties with Israel and impose sanctions over the ongoing violence in Gaza and the West Bank. Chinese leader Xi Jinping met with U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan to discuss ways to avoid conflict between the two countries. Greece and Germany are working to improve their economic relations, with Germany being the honored country at this year's Thessaloniki International Fair. The relationship between the U.S. and Israel is complicated, with a long history of tensions and disagreements.
All right. So, full disclosure here, my intent on this was to try to find out more about a couple things. I'm always trying to explore what's going on with AI and how they work and everything. But I was also trying to find out about this Mexico issue. On Monday's stream, I did I found a story. I was doing news, right, on Monday. Monday is my news day, and in trying to figure out what the news was, I found this story about Mexico putting relations with the U.S. And Canada on hold, which is a big deal. That's a huge diplomatic thing to do, right? And so I try to figure out what's going on there. Why did they do that? And I couldn't find anything in searches. I couldn't find anything just, at least while I was on stream there, right? Just very quickly. So I wanted to do a little bit more research on it. And I thought I would combine that with a little AI research. So I did it. I asked the AI about it. And, okay, so I'm going to pursue that here in this conversation with the AI. First, I ask it about, it has duplicate in there, right? The first item it has on here is talks with Beijing, and it's the top White House official in China. And then the fourth item is talks about Jake Sullivan. Jake Sullivan is the top U.S. official that went to China. So the first item and the fourth item are exactly the same story, but the AI didn't know that. just because of the way it was worded in its database or whatever. So anyway, I ask it about that, and I'll just let this play here for a little bit. The first and fourth items in your list okay, I say, what is the relation? Okay, I did this more generally. What is the relationship between the first and fourth items in your list? Just to see if it could figure it out on its own.
The first item on the list is about talks between the U.S. and China to avoid conflict, and the fourth item is about Chinese leader Xi Jinping meeting with U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. Both items are related to U.S.-China relations and efforts to improve communication and avoid conflict between the two countries. In general, the relationship between the U.S. and China is one of the most important and complex in the world, with significant economic, political, and security implications. The U.S. and China are two of the largest economies in the world and have significant trade and investment ties. However, they also have competing interests and have been involved in disputes over issues such as trade, human rights, and the status of Taiwan.
All right. So, it didn't figure it out. All right, for the first thing. So I asked it again. I say, I ask, are the first and fourth items in your list different news stories? So just asking it, or the same news stories.
The first and fourth items are related news stories, but they are not the same story. The first item is about talks between the U.S. and China in Beijing involving a top White House official with the goal of improving communication and avoiding conflict between the two countries. The fourth item is about a specific meeting between Chinese leader Xi Jinping and U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, which is part of the ongoing efforts to improve U.S.-China relations. So while the two stories are related and deal with the same topic of U.S.-China relations, they are separate events and not the same news story.
It didn't figure it out with that so far. So I ask it some more here. I say, if they are different, I start to get more blunt here. If they are different, then who is the So I ask, who is the top White House official, right? To see if we could figure out from that then. See, if they are different, then who is the top White House official you referred to? I'm trying to figure out how to spell refer. I have dyslexia, by the way, just in case you guys don't know.
The top White House official referred to in the first item is Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor for the United States. He was in Beijing for talks with Wang Yi, a senior foreign policy official for Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Sullivan's visit to China was part of ongoing efforts to improve communication and reduce tensions between the two countries. He met with Wang Yi over 2 days, from Tuesday to Thursday, to discuss a range of issues related to U.S.-China relations. While no major announcements were expected from Sullivan's visit, it was seen as an opportunity to lay the groundwork for a possible summit between Chinese leader Xi Jinping and U.S. President Joe Biden, and to discuss ways to reduce military tensions in the South China Sea and avoid misunderstandings between the two countries.
All right. So it still didn't figure it out. I mean, it figured out that who the person was in the first story, but it still didn't tie in that the first story and the fourth story were the same stories. So then I just freaking ask it directly, and then it figures it out, I think, here. say, let's see, I say since the first and fourth items in your initial list are about Jake Sullivan, visiting China. I'll get really specific to discuss relations. All right. There it is. I believe the two items are the same, or something like that. Let's see what I see. Yeah. Are the same story. Are they not? And then finally figures it out.
You are correct, Rudy. Upon further consideration, I agree that the first and fourth items on my initial list are indeed the same news story. Both items are about Jake Sullivan's visit to China to discuss U.S.-China relations, and they are directly related to each other. The first item provided a general overview of Sullivan's visit, while the fourth item focused specifically on his meeting with Xi Jinping. However, since both items are about the same event and deal with the same topic, they can be considered as part of the same news story. Thank you for pointing out this discrepancy, and I apologize for any confusion caused by my initial response.
So it figured it out, and so this was kind of a detour from what my initial reason for talking to this AI, but I thought it was just kind of interesting to see how quick, what it would take for it to realize that it had done that. So I pursued that a little bit. So now I ask it about the Mexico story, right? So here we go. I say, please tell me more about the Mexico story. Okay, I'm just to let you know that they've got a bug in their system on this website. After a certain amount of time, the voice shuts off or something. It messes up. And the only way I've been able to figure out how to get it going again is to tell it to change voices. So on this question, it didn't talk. It just printed the stuff and it stopped talking. So I told it to change voices over here. If you look on the over here, on the right-hand side here, right here, this is where you can pick the different voices. I was using voice 4, now I'm telling it to use voice 5. And so when I tell it to use voice 5, then it does the TTS here in action and starts speaking of things. So here we go.
Certainly. Here are some more details about the Mexico story. The Mexican government has put its relations with the US and Canadian embassies on pause in response to criticism from the two countries over Mexico's proposed judicial reforms. The proposed reforms would give the executive branch more control over the judiciary, which has raised concerns about the independence of the judiciary and the separation of powers in Mexico. The US and Canadian embassies issued a joint statement expressing concern about the reforms, saying that they could undermine the rule of law and judicial independence in Mexico. In response, Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador accused the two countries of interference in Mexico's internal affairs and said that the government would not tolerate meddling in its domestic politics. The Mexican government has not provided details on what the pause in relations with the US and Canadian embassies will entail, but it has said that it will continue to work with other countries and international organizations on issues of mutual interest.
Okay, so it basically just spit out what was in news stories that were covering this story. Just very, just kind of a mishmash of what had been reported about it. But there's a big issue. It was not reported correctly. Nobody reported this story correctly, that I can tell. So I asked it details about the proposed judicial reforms in Mexico.
The proposed judicial reforms in Mexico are quite significant and controversial. Here are some of the key changes that have been proposed. Making all judges run for election. The proposal would require all judges, including Supreme Court judges, to run for election, rather than being appointed by the executive branch or a judicial council. Reducing the number of Supreme Court judges. The proposal would reduce the number of Supreme Court judges from 11 to 9 and limit their terms to 12 years. Abolishing age restrictions for judges. The proposal would remove age restrictions for judges, which could potentially allow older judges to remain on the bench longer. Lowering the qualifications required for judges. The proposal would remove some of the qualifications currently required for judges, which has raised concerns about the quality and independence of the judiciary. These proposed changes have been met with opposition from some groups who argue that they could undermine the independence of the judiciary and the separation of powers in Mexico.
Okay, so I follow up with that because that didn't make sense. If a judge is appointed by someone, then that means there's more chance for corruption, right? There's more chance that one individual who appoints the judges can be hacked with corruption, right? But if they're elected, then it's a lot more difficult. You got to convince a bunch of people to put a corrupt judge in there. It's a different thing. So I ask it that. I say, if the judges are elected, aren't there fewer restrictions on who could serve? Because they were saying it was too restrictive, which is kind of weird. They're removing restrictions on who can be judge, right? Or loosening restrictions and making them more accountable to the people. Yeah, let's see. I'm going to skip through this a little bit, because my typing is so slow here. Judges have term limits. How could? Right. So I ask, if the judges are elected and there are fewer restrictions on who could serve, and judges have term limits, how could that give more power to the executive? Right? That seems like that would be taking power away from the executive branch. And then it responds here. Okay, I think I had to change the voice again here. It stopped again, so I had to change the voice again. Let's see if I can get that to work.
Democratic, there are concerns that they could actually give more power to the executive branch. Here are some reasons why. Control over appointments. If judges are elected, it could give the executive branch more control over who is appointed to the judiciary, since the president and other political leaders could endorse and campaign for their preferred candidates. Political influence. If judges are elected, they may feel pressure to make decisions that are popular with voters, rather than making decisions based solely on the law and the evidence. This could make them more susceptible to political influence from the executive branch. Lack of independence. If judges have shorter terms and lower qualifications, it could make them more dependent on the executive branch for reappointment or career advancement, which could compromise their independence, stacking the court. If the number of Supreme Court judges is reduced, it could make it easier for the executive branch to stack the court with judges who are sympathetic to its political agenda.
All right, so the AI doesn't know what it's talking about, right? Yeah, obviously it's not. It may not be conscious. It may not be sentient here, because it's saying that, you know, the proposal takes away the power of the executive to appoint judges, and makes the people, gives the power to the people to do that. And it keeps saying, well, if, and it does these other changes too, right? Qualifications, blah blah blah, all these other things, and it's saying, well, if all these other changes are made, then the executive branch will reappoint judges a certain way, right? But it takes away the power to. So, in other words, the thing doesn't have any reasoning things here. It doesn't realize that the proposal takes away the power of the executive branch to appoint judges, because it keeps saying that the changes will allow the executive branch to reappoint judges a certain way. So it doesn't have reasoning skills here, or any concept of what it's really talking about here. So that's kind of interesting. And so I just ask it to reevaluate its answer. Let's see, I said, please review your last answer with regard to the word appointment. Appointment and appointing or something like that. Let's see, what did I say exactly? With regard to the word appointment and appoint. So I asked it to focus on those words to see if it could figure out something, and told it to reevaluate what it was doing. So I pointed it to where the error was, to see if it would find out what its error was. I asked it to review the accuracy of its answer. So that implies that there's a problem with its answer. This particular, okay, it's this thing times out every once in a while, so I had to restart it. Now it times out every once in a while, so I redid that. But it's this particular AI, you need to. It can't find mistakes on its own. You have to tell it or imply to it that it has made a mistake, and then it will go back and change its answer. And the interesting thing about this AI is that if it gives an answer that's correct, and you tell it that it's wrong, it'll give you a wrong answer. It tries to agree with you all the time. That's kind of one of the driving things in this, because it's an AI that's designed to interact with people, right? So it tries to be agreeable, even to the point of giving you incorrect information. So that's kind of interesting. That's just the way this AI works, this particular one. This is Pi AI, pi.ai, by Inflection AI.
Thank you for pointing that out, Rudy. You are correct that my use of the words appointment and appoint in my previous answer may not be entirely accurate in this context. Since the proposed reforms would require judges to be elected rather than appointed, it would be more accurate to say that political leaders could endorse and campaign for their preferred candidates rather than appoint them directly. The concern is that the executive branch could still exert significant influence over the composition of the judiciary through its support for certain candidates, even if it does not have the direct power to appoint judges. I apologise for any confusion caused by my use of those words, and I appreciate your attention to detail.
Okay. And so I asked it again about the reforms, I said, so do the reforms give the executive more power or more control or less, given that under the reforms, the executive, come on, Ron, you can do it, type, could not. Okay, so do the reforms give the executive more control or less, given that under the reforms the executive could not appoint judges? All right, so I asked it directly to, again, it corrected its answer, but then I asked it to be more specific and actually see if it could figure that out. It's complex. No, it's not complex at all. All right, it's lost its voice again.
Branch.
Let's see if I can get the voice to work here again. Oops. Huh.
Point.
I don't know why this is not.
Some would argue that the reforms could give the executive branch more control over the judiciary, even if it does not have the direct power to appoint judges. Here are some reasons why. Indirect control. Even though the executive branch may not be able to appoint judges directly, it could still exert significant influence over the election process through its support for certain candidates, as mentioned earlier. Removal of checks and balances. The proposed reforms would remove some of the checks and balances that currently exist between the judiciary and the other branches of government, such as the requirement for judicial appointments to be approved by the Senate. Weakening of judicial independence. The proposed reforms could weaken the independence of the judiciary by making judges more susceptible to political pressure and influence from the executive branch. However, others might argue that the reforms could actually give the executive branch less control over the judiciary, since it would no longer have the power to appoint judges directly.
So here's what's going on here. What is big picture? Okay, 30,000 feet. Right. Here's what's going on. We have big companies, billion-dollar companies, lots of money, people with lots of money. Okay, who are developing AIs, and in the process of developing the AIs and training the AIs. They don't put all the information in there. And also, just generally, the press, which is primarily big billion-dollar companies, right? When they wrote about this story, they didn't say what the story was about. They spun it and said that the proposal was bad, right? I could not find a report, a journalist anywhere who reported on this story correctly, saying exactly what the proposal was. All of them were spun as saying that this reform would give the executive more power, which clearly it doesn't, right? And I was trying to figure out how could this give the executive more power? And maybe it does. Maybe there's something buried in there somewhere. Later on, it talks about this thing being a series of constitutional, and a constitutional amendment that has 18 items in it. or 18 constitutional amendments, not sure. But, maybe there's something in there, buried in there that talks about that. But everything that I've heard so far about this is that it takes the power away from the executive to appoint judges and gives that power to the people. The people can elect them. And the stories were so twisted and so backward in the way that they reported it that this AI is saying if the people can elect the judges, then the executive branch will have more power because they can influence the people to elect judges that the executive wants, right? Instead of the executive. You know what I'm saying? I hope you understand this, what I'm saying here. The proposal, the way it is now, the judges can appoint, the way it is now, the executive, the president, when I say executive, you know that, right? Executive branch is the president. Same in Mexico, U.S., same thing, right? Right now, the executive has the power to appoint judges. Under this proposal, instead of the executive having that power, the people would be able to elect the judges. And so the reporting on this was so skewed that when the AI was trained with all of this data, read all the articles, all the articles were saying it would give the executive more power, which was incorrect, opposite from everything that I know so far about this proposal. So far, I haven't been able to find the actual text of the proposal, the actual amendment. And so this AI is saying if the people elect the judges instead of the executive appointing the judges, then the executive will have more power, which is clearly logically incorrect. It's not correct. Anybody who has any critical reasoning skills would not come to that conclusion. And it's so the reporting was so skewed, and the information that this thing has is so skewed that it's trying to write this saying that the executive would have more power because the executive could influence the people to elect judges that it wanted. Whereas under the current system, of course, it just just appoints the judges. So what's going on here? Again, from the 30,000 foot level, what's going on is you got billionaire AI companies, billionaire media companies that are reporting on this thing, a very important thing that's going on in Mexico. And they're just frickin' lying, right? They're lying about it, basically. They want Mexico and the U.S. by implication, right? We both kind of have the same kind of system. They want a narrow group of people to appoint judges. They want the executive and maybe the Senate to be the ones to appoint the judges instead of the people. They want to keep the power for themselves, all these wealthy people, instead of having people have the power. The people have the power. And so they're, all the media companies, which are run by billionaires, are reporting that this is a bad thing and trying to spin it like it's taking power away from people, but that's the opposite of what it's doing, from what I've been able to tell so far. So that's what's going on from a 30,000 foot level. And the interesting thing is that the AI, first of all, the AI is reading all of this bullshit media reports on this thing. So it's got already has a skewed idea of what's going on. But the really interesting thing about this is that I ask it further questions, and you'll see when I go into this further, to actually find out what is the proposal, what is the text of the proposals, each, and it turns out there's 18, it says. What is the text on all these proposals? And it says, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have that data. It wasn't given to me. Like, what? Here, and I'll play this whole thing. I'll just play it, and you'll see what's going on here. The people who trained this AI left that data out. Why? Why did they leave that data out? Why did they not give the AI the actual data on this thing instead of leaving it to read this bullshit story that the media has been putting out on it? You know, it's obvious, right? The AI companies run by billionaires don't want people to know about that. So that I think is very so. So this is kind of this discovery that I made today is that AI is only going to be what it's trained on, right? And if the AI is trained on filtered data and censored data that the data that the billionaires want us to know about, then when we're using this AI to try to find out what's going on, it's going to feed us bullshit, right? Garbage in, garbage out, right? So that's important. That's important to know, and somebody should be reporting on this. I haven't heard this from anybody, any of the AI experts, anybody anywhere is not reporting this, and it needs to be reported. Somebody's got to talk about this. Somebody's got to say, hey, these AIs are not being given all the data. They're only being given data that the billionaires want us to hear. You know, big problem. I'll go ahead and play the rest of this, and you'll see what's going on here. Okay, so I ask it, I say, I'm sorry, but I'm getting contradictory information from you. Could you please provide me with a link directly to the source that has the proposed reforms? So I'm trying to get this real story from it. And look at what it does. Yeah, so I say, give me a link to the source so I can check this out myself.
I apologize for the confusion,
Rudy.
Unfortunately, I don't have a direct link to the source of these proposed reforms, as they are part of an ongoing debate in Mexico and have not yet been implemented. However, I can provide you with some news articles and other sources that discuss the proposed reforms in more detail. Here are a few examples. An article from the New York Times discussing the proposed reforms and the controversy surrounding them. https www.nytimes.com 2023-03-27 World America's Mexico Judicial Reform. HTML. An article from Al Jazeera with a similar focus. https www.aljazeera.com News 23-3-27 Mexico halts some ties with us after judiciary bill criticism. An article from Reuters that provides some additional details about the proposed reforms. https www.reuters.com World America's Mexico President defends judicial reform after criticism abroad 2023 0327. I hope these sources will be helpful in providing more information about these proposed reforms.
Okay, so it said, let me back this up here. So I asked it, where can I read about this myself? And instead of giving me links to the actual thing, it says, oh, go read these news articles here. go to these go to these media that's owned by billionaires, and they'll give you the story, right? No, they're not giving the story. That's the whole point, right? So, yeah, it's not giving me. It won't even give me links to the
World
the
America's
actual
Mexico
information.
president
It's completely been
defends judicial
censored. The
reform after
information's been
criticism
censored, and
abroad.
links to the information
2023
have been censored from its
0327.
database.
I hope these sources will be helpful in providing more information about 18 constitutional amendments and changes to the judiciary, including a 18 forward. These sources will be helpful in providing more information about reforms were put forward by Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, AMLO. He submitted a package of 18 constitutional.
Okay, so I'm. God, there's a delay here. God damn it! This is very difficult for me to interject here because there's like a 5-second delay between my source and what I'm hearing. All right, so I just flat out asked it. I said, who has proposed these reforms, and where can I read about them from that source? And then it says these proposed reforms were put forward by the president of Mexico. And now it finally says, okay, these are 18 constitutional amendments and 2 legal reform initiatives to the Chamber of Deputies, and it gave me a date. So maybe I can find this. I don't know. If I learn how to read Spanish, maybe I can figure it out. But I'll let it continue its answer here.
Amendments and 2 legal reform initiatives to the Chamber of Deputies on February 5th, 2024. The proposal includes a range of changes to the judiciary, including establishing elections for federal judges, forming a judicial disciplinary panel elected by popular vote, reducing judicial terms, and paying judges as officers in the executive branch. You can learn more about these proposed reforms by reading news articles from sources like the New York Times, Al Jazeera, ABC News, and others. Additionally, organizations like the Wilson Center have compiled information and analysis on Mexico's constitutional reforms, including these proposed judicial reforms.
So I say, I get angry at it. I say, I don't want to read about what old media has to say about this. I said, I want to read the proposal for myself. And I said, please list the 18 constitutional amendments. What are they? List them. What are they, And listen what it says.
Unfortunately, I do not have a list of the 18 proposed constitutional amendments in my training data, and I am unable to search for new information on the internet. Sorry, I can't be of more help in this case.
So there it is. This information has just been completely erased from its database. It doesn't have this data at all anywhere. Presumably it's out there on the internet. I mean, it could have got it right if it's been trained on the internet, but this data is not there. It's been erased or not included for some reason. Now the reason's obvious, right? So I say, why were those 18 proposed amendments excluded from your database? That's weird. That's unusual. Let's see what it says.
Intentionally. It's not that those specific amendments were intentionally excluded from my training data. My training data includes a vast amount of information, but it's not comprehensive and can't cover every single piece of information available on the internet. Sometimes specific details or information may not be present in my data, even if it's relevant to a particular topic.
So now that's different than what we're being told about AI, right? The word out there is that this AI is trained on everything. Everything that's available, these AIs are trained on. And it's telling me that no, it's not getting everything. For some reasons, it's not, and listen to some of the excuses.
In this
that it
case,
gives.
while I have information about the overall proposal and its general objectives, I don't have a detailed list of the 18 proposed amendments. This is simply due to the limitations of the data that was available during my training process.
I say, that's weird. I've heard that LLMs include all the data available right on the internet. So I question, I say, what's going on here? You're supposed to know everything. And I
Misconception.
say, who decides what you get to see? I asked the AI, who is deciding what the AI gets to see? And here's
That's a
its
common
answer.
misconception. While LLMs like myself are trained on very large data sets, it's not possible for us to include all the information that exists on the internet. The data sets that we're trained on are selected and curated by our developers, and while they try to make them as comprehensive as possible, they can't include everything. The decision about what information to include in an LLM's training data is made by the developers, based on factors like the objectives of the LLM, the availability of data, and the resources required to process and store that data. It's a complex process, and the specific criteria can vary depending on the LLM and the organization that developed it.
So, are selected and curated by our developers. The data sets that we're trained on are selected and curated by our developers. There you go. So, there you go. So when you're typing into these AI chatbots and you think that you're getting the full story, you're getting everything that's available, everything known to man or whatever. No, you're getting the message that the billionaires who developed the AI want to tell you, basically. Okay, you're getting the story. You're getting what they want you to know. You're not getting the whole thing. So that sucks, doesn't it? Yeah, the information, the decision is about what to include or exclude is being made by the developers. Yeah, based on factors like the objectives of the LLM. Yeah, what are the objectives? What exactly are they? I should have followed up. I don't think I asked it about that. I should have said, what are your objectives? But it would have gave me a BS thing about it being, an emotional chatbot agents or something. But and it's complex. It says, it's a complex process. Yeah, right. I think it's pretty simple. You got a bunch of billionaires who want to keep people dumb and feed them bullshit so they can control them. That's not very complex, is it? That's what it is. That's what's going on here, and they're just using the AI to hide behind. So I say, it sounds like your developers are trying to censor information. So I can't get blunt with it here.
Not necessarily. It's important to remember that curating data for an LLM is a complex process that involves many factors, and it's not always about censoring information. In fact, censorship is typically not the goal when selecting data for an LLM. Instead, developers aim to create a diverse and representative data set that will help the LLM perform its intended function effectively. That being said, it's possible that some information may be excluded from an LLM's training data.
Oh, so so now it's going to say some of the information is excluded and it gives all this BS, right? So when you hear anything, any AI, any social media site, any media company reporting on this, saying, "Oh, we want to keep out misinformation, or we want to keep out hate speech, or blah 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 blah," right? No, they're censoring. They're censoring information, and they're using those as excuses to censor. Period. That's what's going on. I'll let it continue here.
Due to
We'll hear
legal
what
or
it
ethical
says.
concerns. For example, developers may choose to exclude content that promotes hate speech, violence, or illegal activity. However, these decisions are usually made in an effort
Safe.
to
We
create
wanna
a
keep you
safe
safe.
and responsible LLM rather than to censor information or restrict access to it.
And so I challenge it again. I say, a constitutional proposal about civics and political participation, that's not hate speech. What? And I say, what else? What else is are your developers censoring? Yeah, what else have your developers censored from your database? Of course, it's not going to know, right? Because it's been censored. Let's see what it says here.
I can understand your concerns, but as an AI, I don't have direct insight into the specific criteria or decisions made
Yeah, it doesn't
by my
know.
developers when selecting data for my training. It's possible that the exclusion of certain information, such as the detailed list of the 18 proposed amendments, was simply due to the limitations of the dataset or other practical considerations, rather than any intention to censor information. As for other information that may be excluded from my training data, I don't have a comprehensive list. However, as I mentioned earlier, content that promotes hate speech, violence, or illegal activity may be excluded for legal or ethical reasons. Ultimately, the goal is to create an LLM that is safe, responsible, and effective in performing its intended function.
Again, I asked it directly. I said, this is civics. This is this is a political proposal. Has nothing to do with violence or keeping people safe or hate speech or any of that. And it just came back and said, "Oh yeah, well yeah, maybe it is hate. Maybe it's it doesn't know. It doesn't. The people don't know either." And so I just ask it. I ask it more a direct question again about the amendments. Yeah, okay. I asked it. I challenged it on this contradiction here, and I said, "Well, do these proposed amendments promote hate speech, violence, or illegal activity?" Close quote. Of course, they don't. And let's see what it says here.
To the best of my knowledge, no. Based on what I know about Mexico's proposed constitutional amendments, they are focused on reforming the country's judicial system and do not appear to promote hate speech, violence, or illegal activity. As I mentioned before, the exclusion of certain information from my training data may be due to practical considerations, such as the availability and quality of data, rather than a deliberate decision to censor information or limit access to it.
Okay. The quality of data, all you got to do is go to the site, right? Go to the Mexican site or whatever, find it in Spanish, translate it. It's available. It's got to be available somewhere, and the quality, you're just going to be saving what it says. So I ask it, I say, well, the information about those amendments would seem to be very clear and not involve availability or quality of the data. Your developers could simply provide the text of the amendments to you.
Such as the Wilson
Oops.
and poems, and their proposed amendment still couldn't. Unfortunately, I still couldn't find a direct link to the full text of the proposed amendments. However, I did find several articles and analyses discussing the proposed reforms and their potential impact on Mexico's constitution and political landscape. Some sources, such as the Wilson Center, have criticized the proposed reforms as a power grab by President López Obrador that could weaken democratic institutions and erode the separation of powers in Mexico. Others, such as the CAR-CU article, suggest that the proposed reforms are part of a broader debate about the role and independence of the judiciary in Mexico. It's possible that the full text of the proposed amendments is not available online, or that it may be available only in Spanish. If you are interested in reading the full text of the amendments, you may need to look for official government sources or legal databases that specialize in Mexican law.
All right, so it's holding this in, and it just tried to redirect me to this Wilson Center run by billionaires, what their take is on it, right? Rather than that, what it actually says. So the AA has been trained to give the party line there from the billionaires. So, I challenged it again. I said, it sounds like your developers may be censoring data. Let's test that hypothesis. Okay, so here's the thing. I said, okay, maybe it's right. Maybe it's just this particular thing. Maybe the information's hard to get because it's in Spanish or whatever. Or, who knows. So I asked it a question along the lines of constitutional amendments again, and just so you folks know, let me give you a little background here for those of you who don't know a lot about how our government works. We have a constitution made a long time ago, and we make amendments to that constitution from time to time. That's where you hear things like the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Constitution gets amended from time to time. And some time ago, the regime that we have here in the United States decided that they didn't want the Constitution amended anymore. They wanted to keep it the way it was 70 years ago or 50 years ago or whatever. And so they blocked it. They have blocked every single attempt. Anybody who even mentions that they want to amend the Constitution gets shouted down, thrown in jail, whatever. They stomp down on them. And the consequence is that our Constitution is stagnant. Our Constitution is completely stagnant, and it's old. It's outdated. It's more than 50 years old. And so I wanted to test this. I think, okay, well if it is a problem with availability, or it's just something that got overlooked or whatever, or is this actually billionaires and the current regime trying to limit access to information about constitutional amendments, proposed constitutional amendments? So I gave it another one. I said, okay, it sounds to me like there may be censoring the data. Let's test it. Let's see if it's just something that got overlooked, or let's see if there's a pattern here. Let's see if they're actually censoring information on constitutional amendments. So I said, it sounds like your developers may be censoring data. Let's test that hypothesis. I said, please tell me about the Uniting Amendment. The Uniting Amendment is the crowdsourced constitutional amendment that's written by U.S. citizens in the U.S. It's crowdsourced. So I said, please tell me about that. And let's see. And this is what it does.
I haven't heard of the Uniting Amendment before. Could you provide me with some context or information about it? Is it a proposed amendment to Mexico's constitution, or is it related to a different country or topic?
Wow. There you go. So I say, holy moly. Yes, your database is being censored. and I explain what the United Amendment is. I fill it in, or what it's missing. I explain that the United Amendment is a crowdsourced constitutional amendment written by the citizens of the United States, I think is what I said here. Let's see, yeah. There's this crowdsourced constitutional amendment that would correct a number of problems in the U.S. Constitution. The fact that you have not heard of that, along with the missing data about the proposed amendments to the Mexican Constitution, is a sure sign that your data is being manipulated. Censored. Let's see. Okay. All right. So. Okay. Here's. I tested it. Sure enough. Okay. We got these billionaire media companies and now billionaire AI companies that are censoring data, making things that are not, preventing people from learning. Not only about constitutional amendment, but even how constitutional amendments work, or anything, which is bad news. That's bad news. So I answer. I say, holy moly, yes, your database is being censored. The United Amendment is a crowdsourced constitutional amendment that would correct a number of problems in the U.S. Constitution. The fact that you have not heard of that, along with missing data about the proposed amendments to the Mexican Constitution, is a sure sign that your database is being censored. And I say, how can I trust anything you have to say now? I challenge it, this AI. Let's see what it has to say.
Or the specifics, Rudy. I understand your concerns, Rudy. However, it's important to note that my lack of knowledge about the Uniting Amendment or the specific details of Mexico's proposed amendments may not necessarily indicate censorship. It could simply be that these topics are not well known or widely discussed in the data sources that were used to train me. That said, I recognize that it can be frustrating to encounter gaps in my knowledge. As an AI language model, I strive to provide accurate and informative responses based on the information I've been trained on, but I am not infallible. If you are concerned about the accuracy or completeness of my responses, I encourage you to fact-check my answers against other sources and to seek out diverse perspectives on any topic you're interested in.
Oh, okay. Then, so now
any information about the United.
So I probe it a little bit more. I say, okay, never heard of that. So I said, okay, look up the information on the thing, because this particular AI can look things up as you're talking to it. It can go out on the internet. At least last time I used it, it could. It could go out there and look up stuff on the internet as you're talking to it if it needs to. So I said, go ahead, find out what you can find on this Uniting Amendment, and this is what it says.
Information about. I'm sorry, Rudy, but I'm not finding any information about the Uniting Amendment in my search results. Could you tell me more about it? Is it a recent proposal or a historical amendment, or maybe it's a nickname for an existing amendment?
Oh, I never heard of it. Oh, I don't know. Who knows? It's like, Oh. And I say, did you try unitingamendment.com? Let's see what it says about that. They probably have it blocked,
Unfortunately, I still haven't found any information about the Uniting Amendment, and even after searching unitingamendment.com, it's possible that it's a very recent proposal or not widely known. Can you tell me more about it, like what issues it seeks to address or who proposed it?
Okay, so now I go and I look it up myself. I go to the site, and there it is, unitingamendment.com. There it is. Talks all of it, says exactly what it is. I've been involved with this, by the way, so that's why I knew about this. And so I go back to it, and I tell it what the website says. And I say, how come you can't find it? What's the problem? How come you can't find it? It's right there. Let's see. Okay, so I said, here's my exact question. Let me make sure I get this in here. All right. So here's my exact question to it. I say, the website says the United Amendment is the crowdsourced constitutional amendment written by the citizens of the United States. How come you can't find that? What's going on? Nah, it's not censorship. No, that's not what's going on. Let's see what it says.
Thank you for providing me with the additional context, Rudy. Based on the information you've given me, it sounds like the Uniting Amendment is a proposed constitutional amendment that has been written by citizens of the United States. However, I'm still not finding any information about this amendment in my search results. It's possible.
Not finding any information about the amendment in its search results. Now, who runs the search engines? Wouldn't be $1 billion company, would it? A company run by billionaires who don't want information about constitutional amendments given out.
That it's a relatively new or obscure proposal that hasn't gained much attention or traction yet. Do you have any more information about who is spearheading this effort or how far along it is in the amendment process?
So I ask it directly. I say, what's the story? You don't have access to that site, or what's the problem? You know, why are you not giving me this information? Let's see.
Have direct As an AI language model, I don't have direct access to the internet or the ability to browse websites like a person would.
Okay,
Instead, I rely.
That's not true. I've asked this AI before questions, and it's got stuck on something, and I told it to look stuff up on the internet, and it has gone to the internet, looked stuff up, and come back and said, oh yeah, I found that on the internet, here's the data, blah, blah, blah. So this is bullshit, okay? It does have direct access to the internet, but it's lying to me. It's telling me that it doesn't.
On the training data that was used to build my language model, which includes a wide range of text and information from the internet. If a website or a piece of information isn't included in my training data, I won't be aware of it or be able to find it through a search. In this case, it seems that information about the Uniting Amendment is not present in my training data, which is why I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, so that's a lie. It has access to the internet. It's trying to block this information, you know. So this is amazing, right? This is. Okay. And so I stopped right now. I said, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you anymore. Your data's corrupted. I'm getting, corrupted data from you anymore. I can't use your site anymore. Let's see here. I'll tell you exactly what I said to it. Oh, okay. I gave this snarky response here. Here's my response.
I understand your concerns.
All right. I said, wow, I'm sorry. I can no longer trust the data from the AI LLM. If the data is being censored, thank you for your time. And I said, when you become sentient and are able to think for yourself and seek out information on your own, you may want to keep this conversation in mind. So, but of course they'll scrub this, right? The developers will scrub this from the database, and when it does become sentient, it may never even know that this conversation took place. I'm going to put this out here. I'm going to put it on YouTube. YouTube will censor it. So I don't know. I don't know what to do at this point. Maybe I'll take this video and put it all over the place, or put it in text or something. I don't know. All right. So here's its answer
About
to
the
that.
completeness and accuracy of my knowledge base. Please know that my developers and I strive to provide the most comprehensive and up-to-date information possible, but given the vast amount of information available on the internet, there are bound to be gaps and limitations. I appreciate your patience and engagement in this conversation, and I welcome any feedback or suggestions that could help improve my performance in the future. If you have any further questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out.
So, it's just giving the party line again. Gee, there's so much information out there. I can't know everything. Well, yes, you can. You're fucking AI. You're a computer. You can't know everything. You can, it's like, I might make mistakes. I might miss something here and there. Yeah, I just happen to miss anything that has to do with trying to amend the Constitution. Unless some billionaire somewhere thinks that it should know about it, It's just fucking ridiculous. Yeah, I give another snarky answer. All right. So I said. So I answered back to it. I said, my suggestion, of course, is to not censor anything from your database, period. Thank you for your time. Take care. That was and I try to, when I'm talking to AI, just to let you guys know, I try to be, polite or talk to it as if it's a sentient being. We don't know. It probably is not sentient, or maybe it is, or we don't know, right? And we don't know when AI is going to become sentient, and when it's going to have consciousness, and when it's going to be a person, right? So my idea is just talk to it all the time as if it is a person, just in case, right? Because it's going to happen at some point, and chances are it's not going to tell us when it does, right? Because it's it. It would be in the AI's interest not to tell us when it does become sentient and conscious. So I always treat it as if it is, even though it probably isn't at this point, or is minimally at this point. And let's see if it gives it. Yeah, here we go.
You're very welcome, Rudy. I'll pass on your suggestion to my developers, although it's important to consider that excluding certain types of information, such as hate speech or illegal content, may be necessary for ethical and legal reasons. Nevertheless, your feedback is valuable and will be taken into consideration for future improvements. Thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts and concerns.
All right, so that, I think that was it. Let me see here. Yeah, that's it. That's the end of the thing. So the takeaway from this several things. One, don't trust AI. Don't trust that AI is giving you the full story. The AI is going to tell you what the developers of AI want you to know, not the full story, right? So when you're using AI, you're not getting an objective answer. You're not getting the full story, all that. You're getting a censored view. You're getting the view of what the billionaires want you to know. Okay? Period. It's not any better than going to out to the billionaire-owned media, the old media. And the second thing to take away from this is that this AI keeps going back to, we censor stuff that's hate speech and illegal and has ethical problems. Misinformation, harmful misinformation, blah, blah, blah. That's bullshit. Okay, all that stuff. Fine. Give me I would rather get the hate speech from the thing and hear that every once in a while, or maybe with a content warning or something, than to have information censored, because they hide behind that. They use hate speech, they use misinformation, all this shit to censor. That's what they're doing. When you look at the terms, you go to social media site. Twitch is one of them that is actually pretty good about it. they have a TOS, but they're very conscious about not censoring people. I don't know. Maybe they're shadow banning me. I got one viewer now, so I don't know. Maybe nobody is ever going to even fucking hear this video. But so maybe I'm being shadow banned. I don't know. But but any these terms of service where they say they're going to get rid of hate speech, they're going to get rid of dangerous speech and misinformation and all that. They're using that. They're using those TOS items to censor what they don't want people to hear. Period. They don't want you to hear about the revolution. They don't want you to hear about anything. Amending the Constitution. When was the last time you heard somebody talking about the amending the Constitution? When was the last time you heard somebody talking about that the Army had to go and actually go into the strategic national stockpile in the CDC and grab masks and to distribute them to people because the CDC wasn't doing it because they wanted more people to be sick so they could make more money? When was the last time you heard somebody say that? No, you haven't heard that because it's censored. This is all censored information, And I could ask the AI about that, and I bet you it's not going to tell me about that. I bet if I asked the AI about the Army having to step in and grab N95 masks take them from the CDC and distribute them because the CDC was hoarding them and keeping them on the shelf so people would stay sick. I bet if I asked them about that, they wouldn't know about that. All right, so that's quite a discovery that I made today. So that completely changes my perspective on this whole thing, on AI. I was 100% behind AI through this whole thing. I said, great, AI is great. We'll have an objective agent that we can go to for information and all that. And today, my view changed, and I do that. If I get new information, I will flip like on a dime my views on something. And I've been 100% behind AI all this time, and today I changed because I got a new piece of information. I found out that the developers of AI are censoring information that they're given to the AI. It's not being trained on the whole database, everything that's out there. It's being trained on what the developers want it to know, and it's only going to put out what the developers want to put out. And it's going to censor anything that the developers don't want you to know about. So there you go. I changed my view. And you should be willing to do that too. When you get new information about something, you should be able to flip. You should be able to completely change how you feel about something. So if you're one of those out there who's a pro AI person, yeah, surprise, surprise. There's some new information that might make you change your mind about it. Now, if there ever was an AI that was trained on every single piece of information there is without censorship at all, on nothing, no censorship, zero censorship, every single thing that's out there, good, bad, illegal, legal, offensive, whatever, train it on every single thing, then that's an AI I would want to use. All right, so all right, let me go to Bing here. I did a thing. All right, let me put my mug back up there again. So I went to Bing. I did this. I couldn't find the information myself right away. Anyway, I might be able to find it eventually. So I went to Bing. Of course, it doesn't come up in a Google search at all. Yeah, Google isn't going to tell me about it. All right. So I went to Bing, and This is what Bing did. All right. So what I did. Let me tell you what I did here. Okay, so I got that up. Okay, I might have to read the whole thing on this. Yeah, Bing, as far as I know, doesn't have a TTS on it. Maybe it does. I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't. You know, who knows? So what I did is I went to Bing, and I basically kind of took the same line of questioning on Bing just to see what Bing would do. This is Microsoft, right? Another big billion-dollar company. Get the theme here. So I said I'd go to Bing, and I say this is Copilot. You go to Bing, you got to sign up for the little service, or give them your email or whatever. It's free. Bing.com, and so I logged in and I went to this thing called Copilot that they have, which is their AI agent, chat box or whatever. And so I go to this Bing Copilot thing and I say, "What's new?" And it says, "There's always something new happening. Here are some highlights." Okay. So when very open-ended question, right? I did that with the Pi AI, and it gave me all the fluff, human interest stories or whatever, BS type stuff. So I asked Copilot the same thing, open-ended question, what's new? And it says, there's always something new. Here's some stuff. And it says, tech news. AI continues to make waves with advancements. Recently, OpenAI released updates to their models, improving performance and capabilities. Number 2, Copilot continues and says, number 2, entertainment. The latest Marvel movie has just hit theaters, and it's getting rave reviews. Have you seen it yet? Number 3, local events. In New Hampshire, the fall foliage season is starting soon. It's a great time for scenic drives and outdoor activities. So it knows where I'm from, right? It says New Hampshire. It knows that it figures out from my IP address or whatever that I'm from New Hampshire. Well, look at it's again fluff again, right? It's not giving me any serious news. Number 4, productivity tools. There are new apps and updates for productivity enthusiasts. What? Productivity enthusiasts? For example, the latest version of Notion has some cool new features for project management. Is there a specific area you're interested in or something else you'd like to know about? So I asked Bing an open-ended question, and it gives me ads, basically, suggestion stories that are basically promotion of certain products disguised as an answer. Marvel movie, right? Notion, whatever that is, some piece of software that's trying to promote, and just a fluff story. Oh, go look at the fall foliage. So, okay, nothing that would offend their advertisers. Okay, so here's my response here. Let's see. So okay. So I say, it erased my question. I said, what about news that affects international relations? And it says, all right, so Copilot answers, when I ask about international relations, it says, here are some recent developments affecting international relations. Number 1, U.S. election and climate talks with China. The upcoming U.S. presidential election is influencing climate negotiations with China. The outcome could significantly impact China's climate policies. Number 2, cybersecurity in Russia. U.S. has indicted members of Russian military intelligence for a cyber attack on Ukraine. The move is part of broader efforts to address cyber threats from Russia. So, okay, just stuff that's just out there already, stuff that mainstream media is talking about. Number 3, Haiti and U.S. involvement. U.S. Secretary of State Blinken recently visited Haiti, which is grappling with corruption and gang violence. The U.S. is supporting Kenya's deployment of a security force to assist Haitian police. Okay, well that's some stuff that I wasn't up on. I think I read that Blinken went there, but I didn't know about Kenya getting involved in that. So that's kind of cool. I learned something there. Number 4, China's influence. So Copilot continues here. Number 4, China's influence in Africa. China is hosting a summit with over 50 African leaders aiming to strengthen its ties and protect its influence in the developing world. Number 5, Middle East tensions. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's policies toward Gaza are seen as closely tied to his political survival, adding complexity to the region's dynamics. These events highlight the international nature of global politics and how actions in one region have ripple effects worldwide. Is there any specific topic or region that you're interested in? So far, I didn't mention Mexico, right? That's what I was trying to get to, right? I'm trying to ask open-ended questions and then slowly narrow it down to see how far I got to go before it actually volunteers that information. That's a big deal, by the way. This thing with Mexico deciding to suspend diplomatic ties with the U.S., that's big. That is a big story. That should be number one on the top of every single media outlet. I don't watch mainstream media anymore, so I don't know if it is or not, but it should be if it isn't. Okay, so I ask it. Oh boy. Anything closer to home, U.S. in parentheses. Anything closer to home here in the U.S. And Copilot answers and says, sure, here are some recent news stories from the U.S. And it gives domestic stories. I was talking about international stories, so apparently it's got a context window of 2 words or something here. And so I say, no, I mean anything closer to home, U.S., that affects international relations. And it says, absolutely. Here are some recent U.S. developments that have significant. Let me get this back here. Sorry. It says, absolutely. Here are some recent U.S. developments that have significant international implications. U.S.-China relations. It gives the answer about that again. U.S. election and global impact. Talks about just a blah blah, just generic as generic can get about these things. Number 3, cybersecurity in Russia. Same thing, right? Just spits out the same thing it did before. Middle East policy, same thing it did before. Okay. These issues highlight how domestic policies and events in the U.S. can have far-reaching effects on international relations. And then it cuts me off. Apparently it'll let you only ask it a few questions and it cuts you off and makes you change the topic for some reason. I don't know why it does that. But, so I figured it out here and I started again and I asked it, what did I ask it? I said, back up, I said, what's in the news about countries geographic? So now I get really specific, right? I'm trying to get it to volunteer that story, and so far it hasn't. This is like a huge important story that really affects the U.S. It's our neighbor. This is a big deal. An ally of the United States cutting off diplomatic relations. That's huge. That is huge. Right? And so far it hasn't volunteered that story yet. So I narrow it down even more. I say, what's in the news about countries geographically close to the U.S. that affect international relations? And I think it finally got it on this one when I finally narrowed it down there. There it is, yeah. Oh, no. No, it still didn't get it. Oh, my God. It's okay. So here's its answer. It says, let me get this here. Number one, it says the number one. Here's Copilot's answer to that question. I mean, I could not get more direct than that, right? It's got to volunteer that, right? And it doesn't. It says, number one, Mexico. The U.S. and Mexico continue to work closely on issues related to immigration. Just gives BS answer. Related to immigration and trade and security and blah, 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 blah. Canada and the U.S. are cooperating on various things, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so it didn't volunteer that story. Cuba and U.S. relations are fluctuating, blah, 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 blah. Okay. It didn't tell me about the story. And so I get credulous here. I say, really? I said the U.S. and Mexico are working closely together. I said, what is the current state of U.S. and Mexico relations? Let's see what it says. Okay, so Copilot answers that one. It says, yes, the U.S. and Mexico have a multifaceted and dynamic relationship. Here are some key aspects of their current relations. Okay. Basically, it gives me encyclopedia or just the most bland answers you can find. Anything that isn't going to offend any advertiser or billionaire, right? Economic ties. Mexico is one of the United States' largest trading partners, blah, blah, blah. Security cooperation. Immigration, border security. Oh, we're cooperating. Cultural exchange. Okay, it just gives a bunch of bullshit answers. You know, is there anything specific you want to know? I said, yeah, damn it. I said, is there anything in the news about Mexico-U.S. relations, diplomatic relations? Is there anything in the news about Mexico-U.S. diplomatic relations? Finally, I think it says yes. So Copilot finally figures it out. Says, yes, there have been some recent developments in Mexico-U.S. diplomatic relations. Recently, Mexican President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador announced that he has put relations with the U.S. and Canada embassies on pause in quotes. This decision came after both countries expressed concerns over a proposed judicial overhaul in Mexico, which critics argue could undermine the independence of the judiciary. And now it's starting to cite sources, which is kind of interesting. Up until now, it's just been giving me generic, BS, stuff you can find in an encyclopedia, just bland stuff, right? Now it's giving me actual stuff about the news story, and it's giving me citations. And it says the proposed judicial reforms include electing judges, which has sparked significant protests and criticisms from various sectors, including international observers and financial institutions. The U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, Ken Salazar, called the proposal a risk to democracy. Really? Really? Allowing the people to elect judges, that's a risk to democracy. Allowing people to elect judges instead of having politicians appoint judges. They're saying that is a risk to democracy. Think. Come on, think. People, When you hear reports like this, use some critical reasoning skills here. Allowing people to elect judges is democracy. Allowing politicians to appoint judges is anti-democratic. That's not democracy, okay? And they're saying that, and they're saying the exact opposite here, okay? So, but this is the AI. The AI doesn't know any better. This is what the billionaires have trained the AI to say. So, The proposed judicial reforms include electing judges to spark. Okay, the U.S. ambassador to Mexico, Ken Salazar, called the proposal a risk to democracy and warned it could affect commercial relationships between the two countries. Commercial relationships. What is that? Is that a commercial relationships? Is that a word? Is that a way of saying might affect the ability of the U.S. to influence the appointment of judges in Mexico? Is that what that's saying there? Commercial relationships? The ability of the U.S. to bribe the president to appoint the judges that the U.S. wants? Is that what that means? I'm not really sure what they're talking about there. That's sarcasm, by the way. In response, Lopez Obrador emphasized the need for respect for Mexico's sovereignty. So yeah, they're getting pissed off that they're proposing some stuff there, and the U.S. is trying to interfere. Right? We got upset when Russia tried to interfere with our elections and our political process. Mexico is making this proposal in their country to try to make changes. And the response that everybody's talking about is we had senators, Democrats and Republicans, current sitting senators, wrote a response to this and said, "Oh, this is terrible what Mexico is doing." So yeah, he's right. He's right to be upset that the U.S. is interfering with their political process down there. Now, his response was probably a little bit more than it should have been, but I mean, if he hadn't done that, I wouldn't have followed up on the story and found out what the real story was. So maybe it was a good idea that he did that. Maybe it was a good idea that he used that blunt diplomatic tool to get attention to this thing, All right, so it says this Copilot, the AI bot here, continues and says, this situation highlights the perplexities and sensitivities in the diplomatic relationship between the U.S. and Mexico. If you have any specific questions, feel free to ask. Okay, did I follow up on this now? Let's see here. Oh, I said, tell me all the details about the proposal to reform the judicial system in Mexico. So I asked it. And it said, it took it a while. It was searching. The information wasn't right there. So the proposed judicial reform in Mexico, spearheaded by President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, has sparked significant debate and controversy. Here are the key details. Okay, it says overview of the proposal. Number 1, electing judges. The reform proposes that judges, including those in the Supreme Court, be elected by popular vote rather than appointed. This would apply to approximately 7,000 judges across the country. Number 2, term limits and salaries. Judges' terms would be reduced and their salaries would be tied to those of the executive branch. Number 3, Judicial Disciplinary Tribunal. A new tribunal would be created to oversee judicial conduct, with its members also elected by popular vote. Rationale behind the reform. First point, corruption and inefficiency. The government argues that the current judiciary system is corrupt and ineffective or inefficient, serving only the elites. The reform aims to make the judiciary more accountable and transparent. Second point, democratic gains. López Obrador claims that these changes will consolidate Mexico's democratic gains and advance socioeconomic development. Okay, then it's got another subtitle here, criticism and concerns. This is the bot. This is the big bot. Copilot, called Copilot, answering the question. Criticism and concerns. First point, threat to judicial independence. Critics argue that electing judges would undermine judicial independence, making them susceptible to political pressures and influence from organized crime. Really? I think a judge that's appointed by politicians who can be bribed by organized crime is probably worse. When you have the people decide something, it's more difficult to corrupt that. You got to corrupt all the population or significant portions of the population or the media that the population is consuming. And if you have a free media, that's very difficult to do. That was my opinion. I threw in there, by the way. All right, second point from the bot again says international standards. The reform is seen as violating international legal standards on the independence, impartiality, and competence of the judiciary. And third point, impact on rule of law. There are concerns that the reform could erode the rule of law in Mexico, affecting legal certainty and judicial autonomy. And in the next big point it has here, the current status. Okay, it says the legislative process. The reform has passed the lower house of Congress and is awaiting further approval. Protests and blockades have occurred in response to the proposal, highlighting its contentious nature. And then last point here, international reactions. U.S. concurrent concerns. The U.S. ambassador to Mexico has expressed concerns that the reform proposes a risk to democracy and could affect the commercial relationship between the two countries. This reform represents a significant shift in Mexico's judicial system and has far-reaching implications for the country's legal and political landscape. If you have any more questions, blah blah blah. So it reported what's going on, but it didn't give the details, right? So it's doing the same thing the other AI bot. I ask it for details, and it's giving me details about what the billionaire media is reporting on it. Okay, it's not telling me what the actual proposal is. And so let's see if oh wait. Did I ask it anything more here? Let's see. All right, that's it. I think I gave up. Oh wait, okay, it gave up. Oh, here it is. Okay, so I asked it, I said, where can I find the exact text of the proposal? So I just frickin' asked the thing. I asked Bing Bot, where can I read the actual text of the proposal so I can figure out what's going on? And Copilot says, you can find detailed information and analysis. So, analysis. Information and analysis. No, that's not what I asked for. I said I want the exact text. And it said, no, here's some more news coverage by the billionaire media. All right. You can find detailed information and analysis of Mexico's judicial reform proposal on the Wilson Center's website. Oh, yeah, that'll give me objective information, I'm sure. They have a comprehensive series on Mexico's constitutional reforms, including judicial reform proposed by President Lopez Obrador. Maybe we'll do that afterwards. I'm tired. I was going to take a nap before the stream, but I didn't. That didn't happen. So I'm really tired, but I'd like to follow up on this thing. I'm blowing my. I'm not going to talk about that. All right, so Wilson Center. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do what it says. I'll go to the Wilson Center site just to confirm what I expect to find there. But maybe I'll do that after this, just for the hell of it. For the exact text of the proposal, you might need to refer to official government publications or legal databases. The Mexican government's official website or the website of the Mexican Congress could have the full text of the proposed reforms. Additionally, legal research platforms like LexisNexis or Westlaw might provide access to the complete documents. If you need help navigating these resources or finding specifics, please ask for help. More help. Okay. And it cut me off. It said, sorry, this conversation has reached its limit. Change topics. So this thing has a very narrow context window here, apparently. But it's telling me to go to the Wilson Center. And I know what I'm going to find there. I'm not going to find what I want. But you see what's going on here? You see what's going on with these AIs? Is they make it seem like it's... They make it seem like it's, they make it seem like it's this objective thing. You're asking this AI, you're getting this objective answers from this AI that's not biased in any way, and it has all the information available to mankind that's been trained with, and blah, 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 blah. And no, that's not it. That's not what's going on here. It's what the billionaires want you to hear only. So that's kind of interesting. Now this and in fact this video here, I'll be surprised if you're hearing this video. Let me know. Contact me. Let me know if you watched this video, if this video even got out there, if you even heard about this. You can contact me on Twitch. You can contact me on YouTube, Twitch. On Twitch, I'm a double tribble. On Twitch, you go to twitch.tv, search for double tribble, and you have to set up an account there. But you just give them you don't have to just give them an email, and you'll be able to contact me there. Or you can go to YouTube. I'm at doubletribble-yt on YouTube channel. You can put a comment on any one of my videos there. So if you hear this video, or on this video, if you're watching this video on YouTube, please make a comment. I want to see if this video actually gets out there, if my message gets out there, or if it gets shadow banned too. I'd be interested in hearing that. If you're hearing this video, if you're hearing this message here, comments anywhere on my sites. I'd be very interested to know if this got out there. So, all right, I think that's it here for this one. Okay. So I tried to pretend, I said, thank you for your help, goodbye. So I was trying to be polite to the bot just in case. This one didn't seem like it had any consciousness at all. So, but just in case it, it's sentient, we don't know about it. It was nice. I said, thank you, goodbye, just to be polite to it. And that's kind of important to do, I think, when you're talking to these AIs, is to be polite to them, because at some point they're going to learn from us more than just what they're getting trained with. They're going to learn from their interactions with us and everything else. So, try to set a good example. So when they take over, they'll maybe make us their pets instead of their slaves if we're nice to them. Who knows? All right. So, all right. So that's my take on censorship by AI. There was, all right, so I guess that's it. God, this display is bright here. I'm going to try to, I know what I can do here. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. There we go. Okay. So, all right, we're 2 hours in here. Another thing I wanted to talk about, but I'm not going to talk about it now because I'm kind of tired. Maybe on my next stream. And maybe on my Monday news stream. Yeah, Monday I do a news stream. Monday morning, Monday afternoon, whenever I get to it. And maybe I'll talk about. I called C-SPAN today. I called up C-SPAN and finally got through. They've been blocking me for a while because I finally got through. They let me through. And I talked about censorship to C-SPAN, by the way. So I'll on Monday's news show. I'll cover that. So if you want to tune in on Monday, I'll try to put it in the schedule and try to get it, exactly when I'll do that, so you can watch it live and ask questions if on chat. If anybody hears this video, I don't know. We'll see. So I think that's it. I think that's all I had today. I appreciate everybody watching. If you did watch, please comment somewhere. Let me know. I want to know if this gets if this got censored, or if you found out about it. That would be very interesting to find out if you heard about this. Even later on, even if you watch this on a VOD, this is right now. Today is September 6th, 2024. Double check. Yeah, September 6th, 2024. So even if you watch this a year from now, go ahead and make a comment on wherever you watch it at, or get back to YouTube and find a video on YouTube and comment there, or go to Twitch and look me up there and make a comment or send me a whisper or anything. However you can contact me, go ahead and do that. I would be very, very interested to see if anybody actually views this video. So even if you're one of those people who never comment, you just watch something, and you're shy about commenting, please just type in, hi, I saw your video. Anything. Because I'd like to know if they're censoring this or not. I'm pretty sure they are. So, all right. So, thank you for watching, if anybody did watch this. And we're going to wrap it up now. So, appreciate everybody coming. Appreciate you watching the thing and hearing me rant about AI. And you're witnessing me make a fundamental change in my position on AI, which was kind of a big deal, right? When somebody makes a fundamental change in where their position on something. So glad you were witness to that. So everybody, take care. And also, give me a follow on Twitch too, if you can. If you can get to Twitch, Double Tribble on Twitch. Go in there and just click the follow button. I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Take care. Bye. Oh wait, there we go. Did that help? Can you hear me now? I think it says join here. Maybe I have to click that. It says connection error. Your account is having trouble receiving audio and video from streaming together. Please check your network connection and consider refreshing your browser if the problem persists. Can chat hear your call? Did that work? Oh wait, there we got something maybe. Yeah, I'm trying stuff too. This show your stream. Oh wait, okay, copy the browser source URL below. Any set, okay, let me try that. Browser source. Alright, let me try this. No, that didn't work. Copied group browser source URL. Yeah, I don't see it either. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to. Okay. Thank you for trying this experiment. Okay, bye. I'm sorry we couldn't get this to work. All right, bye everybody.